Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith. We warmly welcome the family of Sergeant Henry James Chivers, whose story will be told shortly by Private Ashley Chivers from the Australian Army, who is a member of Sergeant Chivers' family. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
For visitors who are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operation for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant Henry James Chivers. Henry Chivers was born on the 24th of February, 1892 in Chiverton, near Canberra in New South Wales. He was the second of 10 children born to Robert and Ellen Chivers. Known as Harry, he attended the local school before working as a farmer and grazier on the family's property. At the age of 21, Harry joined the local militia unit, the 9th Light Horse. The following year, in August 1914, Britain declared war on Germany. Chivers immediately volunteered for service in the Australian Imperial Force. He travelled to Rosebery Park Camp in Sydney to begin his training. There, he joined the 1st Australian Light Horse Regiment. In October 1914, the regiment boarded the transport ship Star of Victoria. This ship was one of 28 Australian and 10 New Zealand transports in the first convoy of Anzac troops to the war. The ships reached Egypt in early December, and the men travelled to the large army camps under construction outside Cairo. The first few weeks of training consisted of bringing the horses back up to condition after 6 weeks in cramped conditions at sea. The light horse regiments were trained to ride to battle, then dismount and fight as infantry. For this reason, they were considered unsuitable for the mountainous terrain of the Gallipoli campaign that began on the 25th of April. However, British commanders there soon needed reinforcements, and the men of the 1st Light Horse landed on Gallipoli without their horses in mid-May 1915. Nowhere on Gallipoli was out of range of Ottoman snipers or artillery, and within a week of landing, Chivers sustained a slight wound to his face, but he was not evacuated for treatment. The 1st Light Horse acted mostly in a defensive capacity on Gallipoli, except during the major British offensive in early August, when the unit mounted an attack on Ottoman trenches. The attack involved some 200 men of the unit, and nearly 150 were killed or wounded in the battle. When it was clear that the campaign on Gallipoli could not succeed, the British and Allied forces withdrew from the peninsula. The 1st Light Horse returned to camp in Egypt in December 1915. Chivers was promoted to Lance Corporal. In January 1916, he was promoted again to Corporal. During the first half of 1916, the 1st Light Horse patrolled the Nile Valley against pro-Ottoman Arab forces. In May, it joined the other mounted troops to defend against Ottoman movements towards the Suez Canal. East of the canal, at Romani, the regiment successfully turned back a major Ottoman advance in August. Chivers was promoted to sergeant. Later that year, the regiment took part in the capture of Maghdaba and Rafah on the border between Egypt and Palestine. In January 1917, Chivers returned to Cairo to attend the School of Instruction. Between then and August, he alternated between time with his unit and completing courses at the school. His results were excellent, and in August 1917, he qualified as an instructor himself. He returned to his unit, where he conducted training in the use of machine guns. With British commanders hoping to capture Gaza on the Mediterranean coast, the mounted troops were ordered to capture the inland village of Beersheba. In October, the 1st Light Horse took part in its capture, which caused the enemy to withdraw from Gaza. In December, Chivers was evacuated to hospital in Egypt, suffering from arthritis in his right knee. He recuperated there until March 1918. In April 1918, the mounted troops were engaged in patrols against Ottoman forces east of the Jordan River. The 1st Light Horse began to push towards the Ottoman-held village of Es-Salt. In a skirmish on the 26th of April, Chivers was wounded by hand grenade fragments in his right leg. He was evacuated to hospital in Egypt. He spent 4 months recovering and returned to the regiment in August 1918. The mounted troops returned to the area around Es-Salt and Amman, east of the Jordan River. Ottoman Turkey surrendered on the 30th of October 1918. Just before the surrender, Chivers had been evacuated to hospital in Port Said, Egypt, suffering from acute endocarditis, an infection of the heart lining. In early December, his condition worsened and he died on the 11th of December, 1918. Harry Chivers was 26 years old. He was buried at Port Said War Memorial Cemetery alongside more than 500 Commonwealth Service personnel from the First World War. Sergeant Henry James Chivers is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant Henry James Chivers, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.